Vanessa, welcome to the Group X podcast.
Thanks, Tony. It's so great to be here. We've chatted for a little while, and it's so awesome to be here in virtual person.
Matt, welcome. It's nice to actually have you. So, yeah. Hey, as I do with all of them, I'm going to kick it off by getting you to have a bit of a chat about yourself and introduce yourself to us. If you can, give us a bit of a rundown on how you got into the industry and how it's led you to where you are today.
What a strange and weird journey. Thank you. I won't go too long because I'll probably bore everyone.
You'll be here for 3 hours. Is that what you're saying?
Do I look that old in the industry? No, no. No. So, I mean, I've always been sporty. I've always been into exercise. My mum threw me into exercise quite literally from child age.
Yep.
Dancer, gymnast, all of the things. But I really started getting into it post high school. I did my exercise science degree, and I was a total science nerd. Worked with athletes, high level athletes, AFL because I'm from Victoria.
Yep.
And it was pretty high pressure. Discovered very early on, really not for me, luckily. And after a few little jobs, I landed into working for Virgin Active.
Okay.
And I worked for Virgin Active for 10 years, and I had a myriad of different roles. And alongside of working with Virgin Active, I was also lucky enough to be involved with a whole bunch of educators, and I became an educator as well. So I worked for PTA Global. I became a master trainer in a whole bunch of CEC courses and
Cool.
equipment sources, Trigger Point and
Yeah.
all of these extra bands and like a whole list of them. It was super fun, really interesting. And then just recently I've broken away from, big box and big chain and have gone out on my own and work now in a tiny, great, small group training studio with a couple of really great guys. And I'm still master training for a couple of companies. I master train for Technogym, and we obviously have our group exercise course, which we've released. So
Yep.
we'll get into that, no doubt. But
Yep.
I have a really eclectic and interesting mix of lots of different modalities in the industry, which I'm yet to come across anyone who's dabbled in so many things as I have.
Yep.
And I've got, I still train clients, I still take classes, and I've invented classes, and I've taught Cert 3 and Cert 4. So I've really seen a really, really wide spectrum of the fitness industry that I've been in for the last 15 years. And yeah, it's hard to explain in a short amount of time, but it's cool.
Yeah, as a top overview, you've got a lot of experience under your belt, which is really nice. And I don't mean this any disrespect to any of the people I've had on the show before. Your education knowledge seems to far outweigh anybody that I've spoken to yet from what you've just told me. So if you don't mind, I want to, if we can, delve into a few of them, because I'm really interested in understanding the PT Academy Global. I think that's what you called it.
Yeah.
And the courses that you were doing with them, because this has predominantly been a group exercise podcast, but to me, group exercise isn't just what goes on in that room. Yeah. It's group training. It's small group training. It's all of that kind of stuff. I call it group exercise. Other people call it group fitness. To me, it's a group of people exercising and working on their fitness. Yeah. It's the easiest way for me to where my head goes with it. But if you can you give us some details with relation to, as you said, Trigger Point and a few of the courses that you were master trainer for with PTA?
Yeah, well, I did a whole bunch. Probably the most well-known ones would be Trigger Point. One of the other well-known ones might be if you knew ZUU, Z-U-U.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yep. So I was with those guys for a little while. I also worked with PTA doing this band company called Stroops, which are like super interesting. They're really big in the United States. And for PTA, I was a trainer and assessor, and I taught Cert 3 and Cert 4 students, but I also taught their CEC, their ongoing education, which is behavior change and exercise, which is about people's underlying motivations or their reasons for wanting to exercise. So as a personal trainer, you do an assessment of someone and ask them their goals, but how do you really get into the juicy information that really then makes them want to stay with you? And then I also used to teach the next step up, which we would call, which was part of their stress management course. I can't remember the exact name of it right now because it's gone out of my head.
That's all right.
But it's that was quite a lot of physiological science, like delving deep into what stress does to you physiologically, but also mentally and emotionally, and then how you can periodize and how you can manipulate your training programs based off the information that you can collect from your client to be able to give them programming and training that is going to be really relevant for them and really effective for them long term.
Wow.
And it fed in really well because my science background with my degree, working with athletes at that level, you go into that kind of that minute detail, that really pinpoint level detail, and that kind of science side of the training that I've done has been really useful with Group X, because you're right, Group X is one of those things that permeates our entire industry, and I 100% agree with you. It's everything, small group, all of those things, right? Yeah. But until recently, very little direct scientific input was given to it. It was always just kind of this thing that was done.
Yep.
And, you know, Les Mills were probably the first ones to really take it to almost that kind of pinpoint level with the way that they started monitoring their releases and going into that kind of level detail with their programming. But now you see it quite a lot more with like your Body Fit, your BFTs, your even your F45s, your Orange Theories, all of those things. They're all starting to have a look at, you know, the scientific side of group exercise, but also the you know, you've got heart rate and you've got all these other wearables now that are giving you information. So your group exercise instructor now also needs this next level detail about all of these relevant like health scientific aspects of what's happening while they're training.
Yeah. I mean, gone are the days of just doing the old grapevine or just a normal bench press. Now it's, you know, there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing. Plus there's a reason why you're lifting what you're lifting or how it's being lifted as well, which helps us, I think. And I think, you know, when we look at it, it's the evolution, isn't it?
It is.
It's the evolution of our industry when we're, you know, have a look back when Les Mills first started, or even rewind the clock before that when it was just the freestyle aerobics stuff that, you know, okay, instructors had traveled from one gym to the other to, you know, steal routines off that instructor. And, you know, that was as basic as it really was. No one was really looking at the science behind what was going on. And it's, to me, it's fascinating to actually see where the industry is and what's actually happening, as you're saying, from the Les Mills stuff to the BFTs, but virtually any program that you're seeing these days in the group exercise space, there's got to be something behind it to back it up, because you can't just go, yeah, cool, hey, come along to my class, we're just going to lift stuff. Why? Because the music's great. There's got to be more to it, and that is part of it. Don't get me wrong, that is still 100%. Part of what it is. Without music, you get I think you struggle anyway without music doing it. But that's almost the basics, isn't it?
Well, funnily enough, there's even the science going into the music side of it, which is cool. But you don't have to tell everyone that there's science behind what you do, because not everyone wants to hear it, right? But you're right. If you don't understand the reason why you're delivering your class, your program, whatever it is, then not only do you not really know who you're targeting for that class in terms of a marketing perspective, but your message as an instructor is kind of it's vague. You know, who are you really speaking to? Do you actually know if your class is getting any results? Do you know if what you're saying is creating a message that sticks with people and that you're creating change in them as well? You know, or do they just come for the playlist? And that might be good too, but you know, you can really have a huge transformational effect on people's lives. And I believe, and so does Emma, my business partner, that group exercise is probably the most influential part of the fitness industry, just because it reaches so many more people than anything else. You know, one instructor can be in a room full of 40 people. That one trainer might see 40 people in a week if they're really busy.
I think it's you touched on something there, which I think I want to clarify with listeners as well, is that as an instructor, we need to understand it. Now, whether it lands with Paul and Jess and Barry and whoever that come to our class doesn't really matter. as long as we know what it is and we know what's behind it and why it's being done, they'll be honest and say they most of the members probably wouldn't care. Yeah, most of them are just rocking up because Nessa's teaching, her music's awesome, her moves are awesome. I love the energy I've got in the room. She creates that atmosphere for me, and it's all there. That's where their level of understanding can probably stop. They don't really need to know it's going that depth further, because what we're trying to achieve, we're achieve. If they've turned around and said exactly what I just said, that they've come into your class because they love what it is, tick. Yeah, we know we're doing more for them, but they don't quite get it in
Yeah.
the back end. So, I really enjoy hearing that kind of stuff, because I think it's, as you're saying, where the industry's going, but it's also, I think for instructors to realize that we, as you said, we've got the power to do more than what we are.
Yeah.
And when that links and when it sort of gels in your mind, I think it's. I'll touch on the topic very, very, very briefly with relation to pays, yep, and how much instructors get paid. Yep, I'm going to say that once instructors learn it, once they get it to the next level, they then have the ammunition to turn around to clubs and say, "Hey, I don't just teach, I coach, or I'm here. This is what I'm actually doing here." So they're
100%.
given the ammunition then to turn around to clubs and not demand more money, because we'll never demand things in our industry. But we've got the power then to actually, we've got the substance behind us to be able to ask for more.
Yeah.
This is the Group X podcast. Yeah.
I'm 100% on board with that. And I think that group exercise instructors get underrated for what they do. And even if you think about just, and I say just in, you can't see me making my inverted commas, but I say just because it's not. Someone who is just programming class to a music, right? So you're to the beat. The amount of time that instructor is putting into either creating that class to the beat or learning choreography to the beat, and they get paid maybe between $30 to $60 for that class.
Yep.
Yeah, they're getting paid for the hour that they're there, but they're not getting paid for the 3 that it took them to do that. And that's the biggest discrepancy that we have in our industry, is that Group X instructors generally do it because they love it.
Yep.
And so for whatever reason that's so undervalued, they get undervalued monetarily. And I would wholeheartedly love to see that change in our industry, because, again, like I said, I think that group exercise instructors are the most powerful entity within our industry and have the most potential to create change and bring in people who aren't currently engaging with our industry. Because Group X is fun, it's playful, it's social, it's just the way that we're biologically driven to interact with other humans, and we're deprived of it so much these days. And that's so powerful when you think about just that basic essence of it.
For the club side of things, I don't think a lot of clubs realize the pulling power that it has. The retention tool, it's your biggest retention tool.
It's
yeah.
huge.
If it's done properly, you have one person you're paying, and even if it was $60 or $65 for 1 hour, and they've got a class that has, I don't know, let's say on average, what we're saying, 30 people to a class these days, or just depends on your size. That's really what, it's only, those members have only really had to pay $2 per person to come to your class. And that we know that if they're rocking up to a group exercise class, they're usually coming 2 to 3 times a week. That when you look at it, I believe straight up, and I know there's a lot of listeners that will be as well, the same as yourself, that we should be getting paid more. We should be getting paid more. Clubs need to realize the potential that we have. Let's turn around and just assume you were stupid enough to get rid of group exercise from your gym altogether. Yeah, you had it there, and all of a sudden you went, "Oh no, it's crap. I'm going to get rid of it." How many members do you think that we'd lose? How many members, clubs that are listening, how many members do you think you would lose overnight that would go somewhere else because of group exercise? Yep.
It'd be hard to quantify. It'd be
I'll throw it out there and say roughly 30 to 40% of your members that, you'll have some of them that will sort of switch over and go, "Oh no, I just love it in this place. I'm just going to do gym. I'm just going to do the weights area." But there'll be a good massive chunk of them that turn around and go, no. Okay, I'm going to go to one down the road that there was the competitor because, okay, we'll get in there and do group exercise. I also get it from the other perspective, though, from a club that is in a regional area.
Yeah, yeah.
That also turns around and says, hey, Tone, I can't afford to pay these guys any more than $30 a class. Yeah. Might be great in the city. You guys can pay 60, but back out here.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's a whole bunch of nuance to it, but I suppose that the angle that I come from as well is that, yes, I'd love to see instructors getting paid more, but I'd also love to see the level of instructor increase at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, like I just said, what's expected of group exercise instructors, particularly post-pandemic, the level of expectation of the quality of the delivery is huge. It's very high in terms of, you know, the way that they approach the class, the music, the whole show of it, but also then, yes, the programming and the science that goes behind it.
Yep.
And there hasn't been any education, there hasn't been any leveling up, there hasn't been anything that's provided to group exercise instructors to be able to keep up with that demand, unless they're, you know, proactive in themselves to continuously stay with it, which, you know, I've had a science degree. I'm not motivated to read, you know, scientific papers and stuff like that. It's, you know, I get my information elsewhere, but I also continue to purchase courses to, you know, over my 15 years, I literally have had countless, I'd probably say between 20 to 30 courses, paid courses that I've gone to so that I can continue leveling up.
Yeah.
And so that there needs to be the group exercise instructor, you know, you might pay for quarterly workshops with Les Mills, and that's expensive and you don't want to do anything else, but that's only one viewpoint.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's one thing that you can do. It's not, you're not doing the maximum amount of things.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. You've just triggered something in my mind of when I went and did an MMA course back through my early days at Fitness First, back in it was probably 2008, 2009, something like that.
Yeah.
The skills that I took away from that, I was able to implement in my own outdoor boxing courses that I was doing. But also the skills that I learned from that, I was able to implement into my RPM class, my pump class, and all that kind of stuff. Now, they weren't skills on, oh, you do this as this is the exercise. It was the other skills that actually I learnt through that, which helped my education and understanding on how to connect and how to do what I was doing in those other classes as well. And I think that's sometimes, I think that could be what you were trying to allude to then, is sometimes the instructors, we get a little bit stale.
Yep, 100%. I think it's so easy to stick in your lane, teach what you know. You know, you might be like, it's not broke, don't fix it. My classes are decently full. I get paid. I show up. And in my mind, if you look at the state of the country, if you look at the state of fitness in Australia, that approach hasn't really gotten us very far.
Yeah.
Mental health is in decline. It's in decline. And if you know, if your message is to want to help people, or if you want to help people change, if you want to connect with people, then just doing the bare minimum gives you the bare minimum.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Doing the bare minimum, you're going to get paid the bare minimum. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
It's just getting through it all. And yeah, the clubs are expecting us to do more, but at the same time, as instructors, we've got to do more. We can't just rock up and teach and then nick off again and disappear.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of that give. 100% the pay structure or the employee structure, I would love to see it change for group exercise instructors.
Yeah.
I just also think that we have to come to the party, and there are skills and there's knowledge there that is to be gained in the group exercise space because of all of these changes that we've seen pre and post pandemic.
Yeah.
And you know, everyone's a little bit scared to invest in their education at the moment, but like anything, education's always the safest bet because it's always going to help you grow, even when things are scarce.
We got a little bit off topic there. I asked you about trigger point, and we've ended up down this whole other tangent here. But I love it because no, but it's not you. I think it's just where the conversation goes, because it just sort of leads into the other thing. I suppose what I'd like to ask you why did you get into doing work with PTA? Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good question. So initially, when I first got asked to do education work, I'm kind of one of those people who I can't sit still. I like to continuously, like my brain needs continuous learning, otherwise
Yep.
I just get bored. It was a way to push myself. You know, I didn't feel like I was the smartest person in the room. I didn't feel like I was the most qualified. I didn't feel like I had any authority to be able to start coaching trainers. At the time, I was only 25. So it was not like I had, you know, all of this kind of experience to draw off.
Yeah.
But I wanted to. You know what I mean? Like the opportunity was there, and I think they saw how passionate I was about it, and that's the one thing that I suppose that has never waned is how passionate I am about just
Yeah.
general health, life, fitness, and education, and that's what really made me step into it. And when you start teaching others, you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much in the process anyway. So me teaching these other CEC courses, all of a sudden, all of the knowledge that I wanted to have in my brain was there on
Yep.
demand.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I know this. So it's like for me, it was a really great way to put myself out of my comfort zone. And
Yep.
I remember, so one of my most distinct memories from PTA was to be one of their master trainers. We had to do one of their courses, which was a presenting and educating course. And it was led by like some of the best presenters at the time. I don't know if you know Bobby Capuccio.
Yes.
Incredible, so incredible, right? And it was over a few days, and it was a massive group of people. It was about 40 or something of us. But the master trainers for PTA had to do like a teach back where we would have to teach a 5-minute portion of something,
Yep.
and then we'd get critiqued by the mentors in the room. And it was the single most like frightening, like nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my entire life. But it was so good. I learnt so much about, you know, how to connect with people and how I use my message to connect, and what my weaknesses are and what my strengths are. And
Yep.
and this is going to lead a little bit into our education stuff, but we don't ever really get a chance as PTs or even group exercise instructors to hear that feedback.
Yeah.
When do we ever put ourselves out there in a situation like that? You know, with PTA, I kind of went for it, and, you know, I got convinced to go to the presenting and educating, and I was at the time their youngest on staff and their least experienced. But I had a ball, and it honestly changed my entire like future presenting career, because
Yeah.
now
Yep.
I present it. I get to present at international conferences every
Yep.
year, and I love it. But starting to do something like that with PTA was really, really interesting. And look, that opportunity came through me buying a course. Like
Yep.
I went and purchased a course through PTA, and I
Yep.
went and attended. And then after I attended, because I was in their network, they were like, hey, you have these skills and we think that you'd be good for here.
Yeah.
You know, that's the industry. It's
Yep.
just,
Yep.
it's all about who you know and
Yes.
connecting with people and
Yep.
their
Networking.
perception of you. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the Group X podcast. You mentioned that you're working for Virgin here in Australia.
Yep.
Yep. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? Yep. I've never worked for Virgin. I've worked for Virgin at the airlines. Yep. And I can only imagine that it's a similar vibe that goes on there, because it was the most fun place that I've ever worked for most fun company I've ever worked for in my entire life. But how was that experience for you at Virgin, and what were the roles that you had while you're at Virgin?
Oh gosh. So I started off as like a gym floor instructor. So I had 30 something hours of paid gym floor work, and the way that Virgin works is an employee model. It's actually really different
Yep.
from most other gyms in the country. So you start off with a high level of gym floor instructing, and you provide services to the members. And then as you pick up client base, you drop your PT hours.
Yep.
Okay, so it's kind of like this inverse relationship when, as you get better at PT, you drop down in the hours. So it's like a supported system for you to be able to gain clients. Then they also have levels as a trainer. So you had level 1, level 2, level 3, and then eventually they had level 4. So I started there, basic.
Yep.
And from the get-go, I was kind of thrown into group exercise. And I just, I had a little bit of a penchant for it. And the woman who was group exercise manager at the time, incredible Les Mills presenter, she just took me under her wing, and I was so lucky because I got to learn off her. So then when I got to level 2, maybe level 3, I can't remember. I kind of moved up in the levels relatively well. I became group exercise instructor because just kind of knew my way around people and group exercise. Now, I will have to say group exercise management was 100% wholeheartedly not for me.
Yep.
It was the single most stressful job I've ever had in my life.
Yep.
250 group exercise classes a week and 75 contracted group exercise instructors.
There's a reason I don't have hair.
There's a reason why my hair's curly. No. And it was a good challenge for 6 months, and then it was a nightmare for 6 months because it was just the same problems again and again. And I take my hats off to group exercise managers because I have so much respect for what they do.
Yep.
So much respect. It definitely was not for me. And so then I moved into kind of more of a mentoring role. So because I had started this journey with PTA and another company, I was kind of flying across Australia teaching trainers. So so Virgin used that as well. And when they started opening up more Sydney clubs, they would fly me up to Sydney to train their trainers from Melbourne. And so then I moved up to Sydney and became a kind of, I had a 10-hour management role where I looked after the training and education for the team. And I did that on a national scale as well. So I started to facilitate openings of new classes and trainings of the instructors for those classes.
Yeah. Yep.
I ran trainings for trainers. So my role was never kind of identified, but it was very multifaceted, and I had lots of little bits in it. And then they obviously started opening more clubs again when they opened up their boutique Barangaroo. I was one of the first level 4 trainers. And so I taught Group X. We did this whole Group X discovery journey, but I was also, kind of their top PT, I suppose, the way that they advertised it in terms of like the level and the knowledge for when they opened in terms of that boutique. And there was a lot of roles. It was a lot of diversity, and it was great because it gave me a chance to kind of, be in the head of department meetings, but also come back to a trainer perspective or to a group exercise perspective and really understand the workings of Big Box, which is just a beast.
Yep. Isn't it what?
And look, it's fun working in a big club like that. This, where I worked at the bigger clubs, there was 20 plus trainers all the time.
Yeah.
There's lots of group exercise instructors around. There was always people around, so someone to talk to, someone to be around. So if you're introverted, it's a little harder.
No, as you said though, the hats off to Group X managers because it's a challenge. It is a big challenge, and I think my biggest gripe that I have with Group X managers at the moment is that, and it's not through any fault of their own, but a lot of them don't have the skill set to do the job properly. Yeah, as you said, feel overwhelmed with it very, very quickly, you're thrown in the deep end because, hey, you're the best instructor. Can you get in there and do that? Yeah, sweet. Okay, I'll do that. And I've said that many times on this, but it's so true. That's where most Group X managers come from. You're the best instructor. You're getting the most amount of people to your classes. So you know what? You must be good at this. Get in there and do that. And they end up doing the pays, fine covers and whatever else. And that's where about stops because club owners only pay, for 10 or 15 hours a week and don't realize that it's probably as full on a job as what a sales manager is or a sales
100%.
consultant is in the area that they're running an entire department.
Yep.
Yeah. There's, as you said, 75 different contractors, and that's 75 different personalities that you've got to deal with. And as we know, Group X instructors, all of us have our own unique personality and our own way of doing things that, yeah, for one person to manage and understand all that, holy hell. Yep. It's a
Yeah,
challenge. Yep.
it's a thankless job a lot of the times,
Yeah.
and they're the people who keep the retention piece of the club rolling.
Yeah.
They keep it going,
Yeah.
and they deal with member like the most random member feedback, and there's just things that you're like, what does this even mean? I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like,
The instructor looked at me differently and then winked
exactly,
and
exactly.
then tried to tell me they had something in their eye. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, but
And how dare you change the timetable without asking me?
exactly, because it was all about you.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that group
Yeah.
exercise managers are incredible, honestly. Yeah.
This is the Group X podcast. But
Got
that
a new
leads me
idea.
into why, the exercise to experience course that you guys ended up designing and coming up with. How did that idea come up? And can you give us some information on, we'll start with that. How did the idea come up?
Yeah,
First
cool.
of all?
So Emma and I met. So Emma's my business partner for Exercise to Experience, and she actually took over from me when I resigned Group X manager in Melbourne.
Okay. Yep.
So
Yep.
that's how we knew each other. And she comes from a theatre, acting, dance, singing background. So different, completely different background to me. She wasn't a PT. And we did the Barangaroo opening up, so the boutique opening up for Virgin Active together.
Brilliant.
So we
Yep.
went through all of the journey of trying to figure out how to open this boutique. And as you might know, she's a pro cycle instructor,
Yes.
like absolute legend. And so that was her baby, was that cycle studio.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because, she went through this whole numbers cycle, like true cycle,
Yep.
and then opened up into rhythm. And,
Yep.
most people don't like to bridge that gap between
No, hell no.
the
That's yes. In the industry, it's almost blasphemy if
it's
you
blasphemy.
think rhythm riding. What's that? That's not real.
That's not real
Mhm.
cycling. Exactly. So I think she did a great job in bridging that gap, but we were both involved in separate education company, well, not separate education, in the same education companies,
Yep.
just doing different things. And she was presenting at Firelex and I was, and we were kind of like, all this stuff that we've done with this boutique, why isn't there this for trainers? Why isn't there this for group exercise instructors?
Excellent.
And literally that was how the idea formed. And we said, all right, well, let's just do a session together at Firelex and see how it goes.
Yep.
And we did the session at Firelex, and pardon me.
Love a mute button to cough.
Yeah. Yeah, so we did this
Okay.
session. Yeah, I'm good.
Yep.
And we had a room full of people and excellent feedback. And so at the end of 2019, I'm going to pause you there again.
You're right. For those of you not watching and just listening, no, you're still on mute.
Now I'm
There you
back.
are.
I'm back. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so at the end of 2019, we sequestered ourselves in a room for like 3 days
Awesome.
and just put it all pen to paper. And then 2020 happened. And we decided
I don't know what you're talking about. When 2020 was just another year, wasn't it? Don't go there.
yeah.
Yep.
But we decided to go ahead with the course anyway and
Awesome.
organically change the course from kind of like a 2-day like virtual live, so a live course,
Yep.
to separate modules and self-paced and online and all of that kind of stuff as well. So it's had an evolution, but the basis of it was that when you become an instructor, you learn what you're going to teach.
Yep.
So you learn Pilates or yoga or body pump or
Yep.
whatever. There isn't anything out there that really goes deep into how do you communicate?
Yeah.
How do you convey a message? How do you connect with every single individual who comes into that space?
No, you're muted again.
Yeah, just
Right.
recovering from a cold, so it's a really
No,
good time.
it's all good. Don't worry about muting it. It's complete. We can work with it. We work with it. It's all good.
Yeah, so they're just that, Emma and I learnt from trial and error
Yep.
and feedback. So we would give each other feedback. We had a really good feedback system in place at Virgin. We were really lucky. But not a lot of places have that. Not a lot of places have a set feedback loop in place. And so that was a really important aspect of our course, is you have to submit a full class.
Yep.
And we give you this detailed level feedback. And that's kind of part of that presenting and educating course that I had.
Yep. Yep.
That's the link from that. That's where we came with that. But then not only is it communicating and connecting, it's coaching, it's being able to understand the people who come to your space. It's
Yep.
music, like really going into the science of music. Like, why does some music make you absolutely feel things
Yep.
scientifically, biologically,
Yep.
and other music doesn't?
Yeah.
And how do we tap into that?
Yep.
And what are you programming? Like, what does a Shavasana do? Or what does holding warrior do?
Yep.
And what about thousands? Pardon me, hundreds, sorry. In Pilates, like, do you know, apart from the muscle group that you're activating, like, what energy system are you using? Like,
Yep.
how are you integrating that into a long-term training program or a short-term training program? And do you really know what it is that you're biologically and physiologically doing to the people in front of you? And you just don't get taught that.
Yep.
You know, I did Pilates recently, mat Pilates, in 2021. Yeah. And the way that it was taught essentially was, don't teach it this way in class, but we need to hear it, you do it this way, so that we know that you know what the exercise is.
Oh, wow. Okay, my brain had a moment then.
Yeah.
Don't teach it like this, but teach it like this now, so we know that you're. Oh wow, that's a challenge.
It's a challenge, but then we were never taught how to do it in class. And
Oh wow.
and so, that really makes me think about, who have we got? We've got so many boutiques opening up, like an F45, or
Yep.
insert any of the above that are very similar.
Yeah. Yep.
And they don't know the programming. They don't know the reason behind the programming. It's all done for them.
So yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't have any control over the music.
Yep.
So you have two skills that you need to work with. Is you need to be able to connect with people, and you need to be able to know how to communicate.
Yep.
Who's teaching you that?
Yeah. 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 You're right.
And if you want to grow as an instructor, but you're not doing your own programming and you're not doing your own playlists, how? Like, how do you grow?
Yeah.
How do you get anywhere? And so there's just such a massive gap. There's a huge chunk of this space where instructors either just learn by doing, or most group exercise instructors are kind of extroverted and bubbly and have an energy about them, which is hard to teach for sure. But it's not about making someone different. It's about using what you have and being able to make it work for the people in front of you, because we all have that instructor who's been way too bubbly for the Pilates class that's like meant to be calm and relaxing.
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
time and place for everyone's energy, and the idea of the course is to give you those skills as well as the feedback to be able to teach whatever you want to teach.
Yeah. I've shared this a couple of times, but I'm going to share it again. When I was working for Les Mills, traveling around New South Wales, I remember walking into a club in a regional area, and I managed to to watch a couple of tracks of this instructor teaching, and the instructor, for the easiest way to say it, verbatim said what was on the DVD. Now, what was said on the DVD was said in German, and the German trainer that was actually doing it was saying it because back in the day when the big Les Mills quarterly masterclasses would happen, you could fly in and you could, from wherever in the world you were, you go in over and you could participate in the classes. Now, obviously, he had his team from Germany there with him, and so he connected with his team in that masterclass filming.
Yeah.
I just sat there and sort of in absolute dumbfoundedness, if that's even a word, but just looked at this instructor as if to say, why, what was that? And it wasn't until afterwards that I was in chatting to the club manager or the club owner, and the instructor walked in and it was, so good to see someone from Les Mills here, blah, blah, blah. And I said, why'd you do that? Oh, well, that's what we're told to do on the masterclass, so that's what I did. And that's, I think that's where what you're saying here, that missing link, that missing piece of the puzzle, guys. That as we know, that the DVD is or the masterclass, not DVDs anymore. God, I sound old when I say that, don't I? Well, next I'll be saying the good old VHS.
The VHS.
The masterclass filming is just a guide for us. Yeah, whether it's from Power Music or whether it's Les Mills or Radical or whoever it is, that filming is just an education tool for us to learn from. We need to have the skill set, as you're saying, to take it to that next step. Yeah. And I love the fact that you guys have worked on what that next step is to be able to give instructors that skill set, because it's lacking in our industry. As we look at the whole thing, instructors these days, as we were saying before, want more, but don't want to do more.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the doing more.
Yeah, 100%. And we wanted to make it accessible. We wanted to make it interesting, because Emma and I don't like boring, so it's designed to be interactive and practical to the point where you can literally start doing every single thing straight away. It's not this process that you have to go through and then you've learned a new skill. It's like after every video you watch, you can put it into a class straight away. You can try it, see how it goes. And we have this saying, just try it on, because it's still a measure of, you've got to do what works for you and what feels right and what feels authentic. And, class to class, that's going to be a little different.
Yeah.
But this is where the pandemic had a really big influence on our industries, because people were exposed to entertainment exercise like Peloton and Apple Fitness and all of that kind of stuff. Now, those guys are almost like trained actors.
Yep.
They don't do the programming. They don't do the music. They've got a whole team of people there. All they have to do is be their next level self, right?
Yep. They're flamboyant.
Correct.
Yep.
And people now want that level of engagement, instructor, entertainment.
Yep.
But they're expecting that of, every instructor who they encounter in every facility.
Yes.
And they just don't have the training or the ability to be there at the moment.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is that you don't need the flashy lights all the time, and you don't need all of the costume, but you can still be that level.
Yes.
You can hands down be that level or be better because you're in person and you can actually connect properly with people.
Yep. Yep.
You just have to know the basic fundamentals on how to do that and where to start. And so even if you've been a group exercise instructor for 20 years, or if you've been an instructor for 20 seconds, the same things apply, because we've taken it from the theatre, the singing, the acting, that, when you go to a stage play, what do you feel?
Yeah.
Because exercise is about making people feel something, whether it's physically in their body or you get them to change their behavior. You're getting them to feel something. So you need that aspect of being able to draw people in. But you need to be able to do your job. And you need to be able to safely cue exercise and make sure everyone in the room knows what they're doing. And give people results and make them want to come back for more. And there's so much to that. There's so much to unpack there. And that's when my science brain goes, oh, look at all of these really cool things that research has told us that you can slip in a few words.
Yeah.
But it's those few words that you say them right at the right time, and you've created magic.
Yeah.
Total magic.
Yeah.
This is the Group X podcast.
I like the fact that you guys have found it. I like the fact that you've thought of what needs to be done, seen the gap, and actually are doing something about it. I strongly believe that more and more instructors that, as I said before, if you want more money, instructors listening, go and have a look at this course. Go and suss it out and see what it is. See, get in contact with Vanessa and Emma and find out more about it to understand it. If you're looking to take your instructing to the next level, as you said, you could be an instructor that's been teaching for 20 years. There's still something you're going to learn. We're still learning stuff every single day because, as we said earlier, the evolution of our industry is changing so much that, what I was doing back in 2008 probably isn't relevant to what's going on there now. I've shared this. I'm not teaching at the moment. I haven't taught now in the last 6 years. Am I going to get back into it? I don't know, but I never did the Johnny Farnham tour and said I was going to retire and then, come back again. I just exited and did it. But my point with that is that if I was to go back, I'd probably go and look to do your course because I'd want to take my training to that next level. As you're saying, if members are actually expecting it, especially after the pandemic and lockdown and things change for everybody, then they're expecting something different. We can't be doing the same thing but expecting a different result. We've got to do something different in order to get that different result.
Yeah, and people's fitness behavior has changed. They don't have a membership at the local studio anymore.
Yep.
They might have two because they have one close to home and one at work.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
maybe they have one physical presence and one online presence. And if you're a studio owner, a facility, or even an instructor, how do you compare? How do you compete? Not
Yep.
even compete, but what do you offer?
Yep. What's your unique point
Yeah,
of difference to
exactly.
the guy down the road that's offering the same? And no disrespect to any program. If everyone's doing pump, everyone's doing pump.
Yep, yep.
If you're doing pump, but you're doing it in a different way, yep, that's your point of difference. Yeah, but at the same time, as I've said to a lot of people, if everyone's doing the same thing, no one's doing anything different. No one's doing anything really. Yeah. So it's great that we're all going and we're all, I can go to any club. Yeah, that side of the industry is fantastic. But if you want to try and stand out as a club, you need to be doing something different. You need to bring something different to the table through your instructors so that you do stand out from that club down the road and be doing something completely different.
Yeah, yeah. And, if you want to keep people in the building, you've got to make them want to come.
Yeah.
You've got to give them something.
Yeah. So what, as an instructor, if I was going to come and do your course, what would I expect? Now, I should before I go there, should ask, is it only online at the moment, or are you still doing some face-to-face courses as well?
So we just finished our intake for the year for face-to-face
Cool.
virtual. So next year will be another face-to-face intake.
Yep.
So at the moment it is self-paced. Now there's always a chance to come to our virtual workshops. But at the moment, it is self-paced. So, the benefit, I suppose, of that is you can, do it at that own pace. If you're teaching classes, if you're not teaching classes, you get to practically impart that knowledge through your own skills, through your day-to-day as you go through it, which I think is quite invaluable. But Emma and I, we always love live.
Yep.
And I think at the moment the barrier to live is not our ability to want to do it, is the ability of the industry to show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for us to get people to know who we are and to know what we do as well. So that's, it's so great being on here and being able to speak to you, because we want people to know that there is an avenue for them to be able to grow in the industry that hasn't been there before.
Yeah.
And the more we get it out there, we know that the more we can facilitate these kind of like live workshops, that you really get to learn off other instructors, because it's not just Emma and I who know some things about Group X. Like, we've had so many mentors and people who we have learnt off.
Yes.
And even within the courses that we teach, we still learn. And that's the brilliant thing. When you're in a room with people doing something, learning something like this, is the energy is so infectious, and I miss that energy.
I think that's coming back, though. I'll be honest and say, over the last couple of months, travel that I've done over to Singapore for the Fit Summit, and also the fitness show that was in Sydney just before that.
Yeah.
There's people around. People are wanting to get out again, and I think that the industry, and especially if we revert our minds back, or take our minds back to the good old days of Filex, and the fitness show was on. You had the massive Filex go for the was it 3-4 days, whatever it was. I can't remember the full what it was. There was the schedule, and you had like 8 things going on at any one time in any one room in any one place of that whole thing. That's got to come back. The having a group, and especially for group exercise instructors. Yeah, that's one of the big things that we've missed. And I think Les Mills are tapping into that big time with the way they're doing their Les Mills Live events, because they're getting a hell of a lot of people coming. There's instructors from everywhere that are just, frothing to be in the same room with another 300, 400, 500 different people, because that's where we love get our energy from. That's where we recharge in those spaces. We get all that kind of stuff. So I think the industry is coming back there, and I really do hope that you guys we're able to find somewhere for you to be able to put on the courses as well for in those big spaces, and have a couple of hundred people come to them and do it, man. I think that's I'd love nothing more to see that happen again for our industry. But
we're working
a couple of months away.
We're working towards it. That's the dream, right? That's what we get when we go to conferences is those people in the rooms. But I just think that that's group exercise. That's why we got into it. It's because there's nothing that replaces that feeling, that energy that you have in a room full of people who are all doing the same thing, getting a bit sweaty, loving the music. It's like a music festival. There's no better endorphin.
Yes, those days. Yes, I remember those days. So how do instructors find out about your course? Where can they go to find out more detail about Exercise to Experience?
Yeah. So we partnered with Functional Training Institute. So they host our course. They're an amazing partner for us. And so if you go to Functional Training Institute's website, you'll see our course up there. It's Group Fitness Specialist. You can also jump onto Exercise to Experience website, our Instagram. I can also give you the links for my Instagram as well.
Sure.
Because we're just trying to get the word out. We've had quite a few students come through our education over the last few years, and two of our instructors have won and been nominated for Instructor of the Year post our course. So
brilliant.
It works.
How good's that?
We know it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's testament there.
Yeah.
And we get, I don't want to blow our own horn, but we get awesome feedback. And
blow your horn. That's what this is about.
And we love it. And we love seeing how engaged the instructors come out after the course.
Yeah.
And that's what really, really drives us for it. And that's why we really want to push the word out.
Yeah. Now, are there CCs involved? Do they get CCs and PD, whatever they're called? I don't even know what they're called, because I don't agree with that side of our industry at all. I hate it, but I understand that it's there, and that's more of a personal thing for me. But so the CCs involved.
We got awarded the most amount of CCs that they can be awarded.
Congratulations! So, that's brilliant.
15 massive CC points if you use that system. So
yeah. So CCs, and what's the other one? Is it PDPs?
PDP or RPEs, or depending on where you are. Yeah.
Which we're doing. Cool. Yeah, brilliant. Like to hear that. And the cost of the course?
Where am I at? Oh, that's on the website. Depending on where you get us at the moment, it's ranging about $1,800. So the course itself goes for about 12 weeks.
Okay.
So
Brilliant.
we don't drag it out, but the idea is so that you can implement it in, and there's over 30 hours of content.
Brilliant.
So
Love it.
There's a lot to get through, but
it's
comprehensive, because there's nothing comprehensive like that for group exercise.
Yep.
And you have to submit your class when you're done, and you get this amazing report from either Emma or myself, which is kind of your ticket to growth. It's what you do well. It's
I love that.
yeah, it is. It's your ticket to growth, and it's something that you can come back to. You get the template for the evaluation, so you can continuously do it for yourself. You can, spread the word to get other people to do it for you. It's a really good way for you to continuously then develop your own feedback systems as a group exercise instructor, which we think is a huge part of that continued growth and that continued
Definitely.
desire to perform really well.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Vanessa, thank you so much for coming on the show and having a chat with me. I know it's only been a quick one, but I think we just hit the mark. Everything that you have shared with us tonight, I think, has landed really, really well. And I'm sure that instructors that are out there that want to look at improving themselves, or even if they're not, go and just suss it out. I think that's, open your eyes up to other things that are out there and look at what you can do for your own education, and then how that can actually help what you're doing day to day. So thanks so much for being open and honest and sharing you.
My pleasure, and then hopefully you can get Emma on and you can pick her brain about her theatre.
Totally. I put it this way, I need someone to come and have a chat to me about rhythm riding, because I've never done it. And I'm on that key you said earlier on. I'm on the other camp of, training and all that kind of stuff, and it's got to be done this way. And I need to go and do a rhythm ride class. I need to get out there. So I will reach out to Emma. And Emma, if you are listening, watch out. I'm coming after you to have a chat to me as well.
It's going to change your life. It's going to change. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.